Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Eastern Essex District Department of Veteran Services. This is our quarterly meeting. It's December 4th, approximately 6:10. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a full agenda. So with that, I'd like to kick it off with our citizens query. I don't see any citizens here, so.
Bob says hello to everybody.
Bob's new role, he's got a new role, I heard, on a committee or two.
Yeah, so he got appointed by the governor for the Veterans Rep with Senator Carr's office.
And I would just like to pass not the query, but our former chairman, I saw him about a week or two ago, and he wants to send his regards and best wishes to everyone. He misses the committee. He is now a volunteer, doing some volunteer work on the Case and Young, and just loving every bit of it. So, but he did say, please send his kindest and warmest rewards, and he misses the committee. He misses the quarterly meeting. So, okay. I think the next item is review and approval of minutes. Cindy, Steve, I thought that's something that I think we're gonna have to table until the next meeting. But again, that is something which we'll push off to the next meeting for a full approval.
Can we just check too, besides last month, our last meeting?
Oh, no, we got.
We're missing any.
So she has the links already from already. Yeah, she's got her homework.
Yeah.
But it's winter time.
Yeah, no.
I just don't want to go outside anymore.
The next item on our agenda is financials. Let me turn that over to Karen and Steve. If we could talk a little bit about how we're shaping up as we move through the year.
Excuse me, the financials are pretty uneventful. Pretty much what you would expect it to be at this point through the year.
Which is good.
Right, right. There's not anything that I think is, glaringly an issue. We had talked about allocating some money to some different areas with regard to marketing. And
Adding some line items, I think.
Yeah,
In the
yes.
last meeting, and I forgot what those were, I apologize.
Well, so I actually have some good news. That $700 for Tony to come with me to the conference that you guys are going to.
Right.
That ended up being free because the state paid for it, because it was a state run. It wasn't an MVSOA. It was an Executive Office of Veteran Services conference. So they picked up the bill completely. We didn't even have to spend anything. So we have saved a lot of money.
Can we talk about what's the difference, Steve, between those two conferences?
So we pay dues for the Massachusetts Veteran Service Officer Association. So it's all the veteran service officers, about 350 in the state that are in an association. We pay dues. They have their own conferences where it's just internal, but then there's also the state, which is the Executive Office of Veteran Services. They hold their conferences. So we pay for the ones, obviously, with our dues that we pay for all those expenses. But when it is state run or state mandatory trainings, they pick up the bill.
And what's the mix? Is there one of the state and 5 of the others, or how's the mix? What's the typical year?
One a year.
Okay, good, great.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I thought it was a wonderful, even if it did cost money and resources and time, I just thought it was a wonderful training opportunity for Tony. And again, the way you're gonna learn is you're going to mix with other folks, so.
It was great. It was great.
But Karen, financially, nothing uneventful.
Nothing.
Are we on track? Are we behind? How is the cash flow?
I would say, we're on track. Everybody has paid all their assessments, so
That's a huge step forward this year.
So,
I'm speaking for Essex.
does anyone have any questions on anything?
So we're halfway through.
About halfway,
Yeah.
This is mostly through November. There were a couple of things that I'm waiting for Tony to put on a warrant, which I believe he's doing right now.
Okay, okay.
So I can finish reconciling through November.
And Karen, what is the state of our ongoing, surplus,
Retained
the retained earnings, right? Is it 50? I know we were at once at 100 and we were gonna whittle a little bit down. How is the retained earnings looking? How is that tracking? Are we adding, we subtracting?
Well, we added a lot last year.
Right.
Because we didn't spend any money.
Right, right,
And, you know, basically, we're where we were the last meeting, at 148,398. If you look
okay.
at the balance.
Yeah,
sheet,
I see it right here.
So,
So if things, the cash flow sort of stays at the same pace, we would finish the year with retained earnings of approximately 150,000.
right,
Which I think spurs a discussion among the board members about what goes back to the town, what stays here. I think our goal was, correct me if I'm wrong, to be in that 50 to 100 range.
it was
that-
50 is kind of the policy that was set.
Okay.
You know, as a rainy day kind of fund,
Right, okay.
so.
And I guess, Steve, that's also part of your, business plan, your agenda. What are any initiatives that, you would need, some of these electronic initiatives? But it seems like the retained earnings are tracking higher and we've added to it because of our surplus last year.
Yeah.
And even with the fully staffed, and fully, benefited, side of things.
Yeah.
It seems like we're tracking well.
Right, we will be using some of that if we spend all of our budget because Steve's contract was negotiated after the budget was set.
Okay,
And I'm not sure if it includes some of Tony's as well. Because when we set the budget, we had certain numbers of hours
right,
and I believe they were both increased.
okay.
So we know that at the end of the year, we'll be, in the.
So that may be a
negative
high point. We should probably look at it as we get into the next meeting. Yeah. Okay. But still a very healthy set of
So
figure.
we'll be able to hear more about that at our next meeting in February.
Well,
With our budget meeting, I mean, because that's when we're gonna go set the budget, correct? That's when you guys sign the budget in February? That's usually
Well,
the,
I know we're all having our budget hearings coming up in January,
Right.
so,
so when should I have the next meeting? I thought it was February.
Yeah, it is.
Is when you guys sign the budget.
yeah, and then at some point, I think you'll be coming upstairs
Yeah.
and going to the different towns for your budget.
I just do it.
Oh.
Yeah. Why
Do
not?
we see the fiscal year 2026? Do we see, are we gonna be able to? I don't, level services versus level funding, are we gonna be able to move into 2026 with the level funding like what we had for 2025? Or do we see that budget going up?
So I'll tell you what we're doing. We're doing level service.
Well, that's what Newbury does too. We're doing level services. So my point is that I don't want to see us cut anything of what we're doing right now.
You're gonna see it go up.
And I'm not, you're gonna see it go up, okay?
Well,
The
number
budget
one,
will go up.
the budget will go up
That's what it
because
is.
The
last
budget
year,
will go up.
well, because salaries will increase. And last year we had a very low assessment from Essex Regional Retirement, if you remember.
That's
It was a
correct.
very small number.
Right.
Because it was based on there not really being people here. So that's gonna be back to its normal level.
And this is a follow-on
Yeah.
question. So, accounting principles would say that we do not use the retained earnings to pay for the increase in the budget.
Correct.
Is for operating
Correct.
costs.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
But I think Karen's point is that retained earning is at a high point because some of the expenses are fully now employed. So we may chip away at this 148,
Oh, yeah.
398 slightly.
this year, but
Slightly.
well, because this year was kind of a unique year because last year we didn't really spend any money, but going forward. It's like you use your free cash, to be
Right.
for kind of one-time investment like things.
Right.
Mhm.
But, at some point, there's the point, do you want to return money to the towns, which then goes to the town's free cash?
Right, right.
You could also make the argument that do you reduce assessments to the towns, but I think in that you run the danger, if you do it on a 1 year thing, then the next year there's a big jump.
Right, where's my check next year, right?
Right,
As opposed to giving some back out of it. and then
right, and then, you
staying
know,
on course.
keeping the budget fully funded
Right.
as it is.
And that's why I challenged Steve to say, you know, let's fully flesh out some of these initiatives, the electronic initiatives that you and Tony are working on. You know, what is a fully fleshed out budget, since we do have some room and some play in it with the growth in retained earnings.
How much of an increase do you think it's gonna be fiscal year 2026?
It's too early to know.
It's too.
It's too early to know what they're.
5%, like
I get, yeah,
two,
I wouldn't say.
let's just say proposition 2.5, you know, is it,
Right.
would it be like under 2.5%, you think, or it's too early? But
Yeah, I think it's too early because like I said, that Essex Regional Retirement, you know, I think that went down about $13,000 for fiscal 25. So you can bet it's gonna go up to probably at least where it was.
Right,
So.
Can you explain how we get assessed, since you mentioned the Essex Regional Retirement? Is it a percentage of what we pay out in salary?
It is.
So,
It
so
is.
if we're not staffed for half a year, you know, then that percentage by definition is
Right,
low.
so the way it works is in October, November kind of timeframe, they say, okay, here are all your salaries through the first 9 months of the year.
Right,
And then they base the assessments based on that.
okay, right,
And, you know, when we had the year where, you know, no one worked for a few months,
right,
they used to gross it up to an entire year, but this year they switched, so they just do it based on the 9 months. And then, you know, it's basically a percentage.
sure. So even if there was, if we tried to hire a VSO and we didn't have, if we had, it's that percentage is driven off of that number, regardless of what the historical salary base has been.
Correct.
So it's based on the number that would be 9 months of salaries, or is it aggregated for 12 months?
Well, what they used to do is they used to go through 9 months and they used to gross it up to 12 months.
Uh-huh,
But it was, you know, a lot of work for their staff and it didn't really make a difference. As
right,
long as you're comparing apples to apples. If you're comparing everybody's 9 months worth, then, you know, it makes more sense.
right. And
And it all kind of averages out over time.
not to muddy the waters, but how does this relate to, you know, the unfunded, you know, pension liability that, you know, each of our towns are struggling with? This is separate from it, correct? The OPEB,
That's totally different.
that's totally different. This is
That's
a
health
difference.
insurance.
Okay, that's a different system
This is your assessment that you get from Essex Regional Retirement.
for the retirement, for folks, who have filled their role and are retired.
Yes, yeah.
And the healthcare is completely different.
OPEB is
OPEB
totally
is a
different.
completely different argument,
Yeah.
right now. Okay. Okay, so I guess we'll watch the numbers as they progress, Karen, into February, and we should probably have a better idea of.
Right, and Steve and I can work to kind of come up with where we think we're gonna end up this year. You know, before we start the budget stuff.
Aside from our electronic initiatives, Steve, Karen, are there any other line items or areas as your, you know, your feet are more fully wet that you want to, enlarge, you want to shrink? I know there's some technology you guys needed. Anything else in that area that
Well,
we need?
We did buy the new computers, which are awesome. That came out last year. I think you all know my exciting initiatives to get a vehicle to
Okay.
actually bring veterans to their appointments. Because if I'm filing all these claims and an elderly veteran can't get to his comprehensive claim, I'm wasting my time even filing the claim, which is happening a lot. So some issue, like MIVA does not cover some towns. They cover three of my towns out of 6. So Ipswich is not one of those that, because MIVA is a Merrimack Valley MBTA system. It's like their own MBTA up in Merrimack Valley.
Right,
So they actually started this new mini MIVA program where they actually pick up veterans from their house, bring them to the Bedford VA, Jamaica Plain VA, but some of my towns just don't fall under that.
will
So,
the CATA support
No.
you? Will Cape Ann help?
Ada,
well, so Yes and no, DAV also, but you have to call within, I think, 3 weeks in advance, which sometimes that's just not possible.
Right.
Some
So
appointments come
MIPA
up.
is more flexible than CATA, as far as, those
Yes,
window?
yes and no, but like I said, there's also restrictions on towns that they actually cover.
Right.
You know.
There's some towns that have it, like Peabody, they have two.
They have two shuttles.
Two vehicles.
Salem has two.
Yeah. And Haverhill has.
They have
because I
volunteers?
volunteered to be a driver. for
Okay.
them, And, but they've got these people who've been doing it, who,
I'm sure they love it, yeah.
you can't, you can't get the list to be the volunteer driver, they just, you know,
I have
they just.
this.
But I mean, but yeah, because I mean, we talked about this before, because I saw all the other with their own vehicles. I mentioned this like when I first came here, and I thought Karen was gonna, oh, well, someone was gonna shoot me in that meeting. They came like charging after me when we were talking about giving the money back to the towns. I'm like, well, wait, maybe we should give it to do something for the veterans and we can do. That didn't go over very well, so I stopped talking about it, and then I mentioned it to Steve. I said, hey, why don't we have a vehicle? You know, my wife will volunteer to drive, I'll drive, I'll give you a vehicle here, you know, I just. I think it's a great idea because there, you'd be surprised and.
Yeah, Council on Aging. has
Even
that.
our council of aging, like I was volunteering to drive, but it's like a nonprofit. So the only one that's profiting is this nonprofit, and they do it and they drive the people, but you're the volunteer driver, so I pay for the gas, my vehicle and everything. And then there's two people that just coordinate and make sure that I pick the person up. I'm like, wait a second, you're a nonprofit organization, but you're getting paid from the state and federal money and, okay, I understand.
So they're really playing for the court, the dispatch services.
So they are, so they're making money, they're a nonprofit, they're a 502 company, and I'm like, wait a second now, you're making money and I'm doing it for free, I don't mind, I'll drive anybody anywhere, because I was the only one who volunteered to drive to the VA in Boston, to
Sure.
make a plane where others would not.
Sure.
They said, no, we're not going there. So, you know, that's when I even brought it back to Steve. I said, you know, we should really think about doing our transportation, because, you know, we can get drivers and there's so many other VAs that have it, that don't have, like, you know, if you do go to your appointments, like, I can coordinate with people for them to come pick me up and take me to Jamaica Plain, but it's like, it's not as easy as you think it is.
Well, so even NEVA does not bring you to certain VAs, so.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, they
It
don't
only
go,
limits
they don't
you
go to
to-
all
yeah.
of the VAs.
So
like,
say your appointment's in West Roxbury, they don't cover.
They won't go to
Roxbury.
West Roxbury, yeah.
So,
DAV will, but you, like you say, you gotta coordinate with them well in advance.
Sure.
And then they got like these slotted times, because the DAV shuttles are all at, especially in West Roxbury, I mean, they're hopping place.
Right.
But it's, you know, at 3 o'clock, if your appointment isn't done by a certain time, you know, the fun bus is leaving.
Right.
It's going, so,
Right.
but anyways, I mean, I,
so that's what my agenda
yeah,
is.
that was, yeah.
I mean, even if we can help someone do a fundraiser as well, you know, us not just cover the full cost. I know you spoke about auctions, state auctions for,
The state does have a
Right.
fleet of
so if we
cars
can
that are,
get cheap shuttle or through an auction. And, you know, so there are ways that we can try to see the cheapest, most effective way that we can do this, and I think that will be a huge.
All the municipalities have surplus vehicles all the time.
Yeah.
That are going to auction. Our COA, we used some of our, what is it, the ARPA fund.
ARPA
We
money,
used
yeah.
ARPA funds to replace our COA van ahead of schedule. And we took we took the one that we had and it went to surplus, but it certainly would be usable. I guess my question, you know, you have a big area. You know, let's talk about the logistics of this. You have one, I'm assuming it would be parterre. And you've got a huge area to cover.
So, and.
Would
what-
it be practical for you to do that?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this right now, there's no way that there's gonna be 4 appointments from Newbury in one day, so yeah, it definitely is gonna be.
Well, and
practical.
Neva gave us a briefing too, we got the veterans briefing.
I was the one that set that up, so.
Yeah, which was outstanding, and I don't think anybody in the room
Yeah.
realized what we have available
Yeah.
through them. But it's,
Yeah.
but it's, you know, like, for example, if you wanna go to Jamaica Plains, it's a group
Yeah.
share ride event. And like when the last one is done, they're leaving.
Yeah.
You know, so, anyway.
But I do have a lot of people willing, I got a
Right.
stack of people with their numbers like, hey. if you
I'd
need
love
a
to
driver, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't have a vehicle, like, how many calls have we gotten of people saying, can I volunteer to drive? We're like, hey, yeah, we don't, you don't have a vehicle, though.
So I'm sorry.
To Dan's point, though, he's right. I mean, you might not have 4 people in Newbury going to someplace in the same day, but you might have one from Ipswich, one from Newbury, one from.
Oh, yes,
and
That-
But we also, that's where you coordinate, you know, hey.
But
can
you have one vehicle, right?
Right,
In
but
the-
this is when we tell people, hey, we're all gonna leave it, so say if you have to wait an extra half hour until this other appointment is finished, we're gonna see. It's
Yeah,
easy
you
to
can-
tally,
you can
all right, we got
schedule
these
that.
3 people, when's the last person's latest appointment? And then we can be like, hey, we're all gonna rendezvous right up front of, you know, the flagpole at this time. And then, you know, we have a cell phone, you can call us, let us know you're ready to be picked up, or text, I mean, that's just easy communication.
What about liability and insurance and all of that?
Well,
stuff?
that would be a new a line item on the budget.
Yeah.
That's because I was thinking about the same thing.
Right, but I mean, like, as far as municipalities, a municipality,
What about COA, what's their,
because they're part of the town of Ipswich.
yeah,
So the town of Ipswich has X number of people.
And it's like an
Vehicles or
umbrella, the town's umbrella policy.
Right, and the
I think,
town-
covers it.
Then the town has insurance for whatever vehicles.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know about in your towns, but we have employees that drive our vehicles. We don't have volunteers.
I don't know for our COA. I think there's a couple of, I'm not sure, I think they're.
There's a volunteer.
We have a.
But is it the town of Ipswich or is it like the friends of the COA?
No, it's Ipswich COA, they have their 2 vehicles. on
Right.
the
That's
spot
a good
right there.
point.
But
If it's-
Right, but I mean, that's something that you would need to look into because,
yeah,
um,
I'm pretty sure it's definitely, Ipswich Council on Aging,
right.
it's not the Friends of the COA.
So, yeah, it's very interesting to handle the liability. I'll throw 2 things into the mix here, not to muddy the waters. But we are, in Essex, we are charged an MBTA fee.
They are too.
However, we have no MBTA in Essex. So we worked with Senator Tar about saying, hey, how about, you know, some of the shuttle services, some of the ride services spilling over to our elderly services. And that was terrific. So, you know, there may be some options with the ride. There's a lot of flexibility what they can and can't do. And then I'm in another situation where a company I know is downsizing their fleet, but they're using like the rideshare apps and reimbursing, and it's actually more economical. So maybe if you had a volunteer that could push a ride share through, you know, a credit card or something, that may be a 3rd option with no liability costs and no depreciation costs.
That's true, you like subcontract.
Yeah.
The
Uber,
Right, so if you had a volunteer with, I don't know, an office cell phone that tied into the, you know, the credit card.
yeah,
Now, it's not cheap, but it's also.
Yeah.
Not cheap to have a vehicle, you know, sitting and depreciating, but
Right.
again, they have a whole fleet and they found they could cut it by about 2/3.
right,
Good idea.
that is.
Well, and the other piece too, that I think about a lot of things, but like handicap accessible.
Oh, no,
I would imagine that whatever we purchase to have on site here would have to be ADA compatible. And like, and up to code and,
well, I mean, yeah, for,
You know,
if you want wheelchair accessible, van,
right,
like the COA does.
Right,
something like that.
right.
Yeah,
Very interesting issues, very interesting stuff.
but I mean, once In February, I'm gonna present the budget and new line items, and we can go over and discuss it there. They're not gonna be crazy amounts, so don't be surprised that all of a sudden there's gonna be a $50,000 line item on the budget in February. There's not gonna be, but yeah, there definitely will be new things that will be added because now I have a better understanding of the budget after I've been here a year, so.
And I think that's Karen's point. Let's,
Yeah,
let's let you guys
Yeah.
get your clothes, get your outfits on, try what works, what doesn't work for you guys.
Yeah.
And that will really drive what the budget looks
And I'll present it next meeting for sure.
Oh, the timeline is, for you to go to the inspection.
I usually get an email and then I tell them, hey, I don't have it approved yet, and they're like, okay, let us know when you do, and then, that's how it goes. All right.
Karen, Steve, anything else on financials? Looks good. Thank you for your diligent work. Keeping the dollars and cents together is such an important piece of it. Okay. The next item we have on the agenda is the chairman's report. Typically, we just go around the table. I'll start with anything you want anything you want to talk about local veterans issues in your
Reefs
town?
Across America coming up. I believe ours is December 9th.
On that, okay.
I think it's on the 9th, and I volunteer. We have a bunch of volunteers to pick the reefs up. We've got a guy that's got a box truck, and we do the Byfield cemetery, which is on the Georgetown Byfield line.
Yeah,
We do the cemetery on Cottage Road,
right.
right off of Parker River. And then we do the veterans portion of the cemetery in Newburyport. So Newbury covers those three cemeteries that reach across America. We reached our goal this year of, I think it was like 770 wreaths or something. And, it's a great event. I love doing it. And what it gives you the opportunity to do also is, identify broken plaques and the identification part of it. So, I'm really happy about that. Bill DeMayo and the entire board would like to add another memorial in Newbury. And I think we've talked about, you know what I'm talking about. And so we're working on that, and Bruce Tarr actually was sitting, he had lunch at my table. And he said there's state money for that. So Bruce says there's state money for that. We're gonna tap that revenue source. And then another initiative that I wanted to do in addition to this memorial is maybe in our town library is kind of do a hero wall where, and Steve, you can, or I haven't even talked to you about this, but do you have the ability to pull up everybody's DD 214 from Newbury?
Not so we can pull up all that's uploaded in MRO, so if they didn't enlist in Massachusetts, then no.
No.
So, yeah, there's,
You gotta go line
Yeah.
by line.
Line by
Yeah.
line by line.
and then only goes, public record only goes back 70 years.
Yeah.
So anything after
How many?
70 years,
70, 70?
70. So that's the
Okay.
only public DD 214.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything before that, not, you can't, they're not public record, anything before that.
Right. And then also, on top of that, I understand too that there's veterans out there that probably don't want to be on that wall.
Sure.
And we would honor that
Sure.
also,
Well,
it's gonna take a consensus, for sure, you know.
Some veterans
That's
want
all,
their privacy,
Yeah.
that's their right.
yeah. So I got,
Ron, anything going
No,
on?
I was looking at our calendar, we're supposed to have a luncheon a breakfast in December, weren't we?
Yeah.
It fell off of the calendar.
12.
Yeah, it's not showing right now, I gotta,
Or, no, the 19th, sorry.
the 19th.
The 19th, 10 a.m.
Yeah, alright, well, it's off their calendar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's on mine.
I'm looking at.
the West, he's looking at the West Newbury.
Yeah,
calendar.
I was looking at the town calendar, 'cause I know we're talking about that, so we just have to make sure she's still
Christine?
tracking it,
Oh,
yeah.
no, she definitely is.
Yeah, I don't know why it fell off this calendar,
Yeah.
we'll double check that. But that's all I have from this end here.
Yeah, so, I'm trying to remember when was the last time we met? Was it the end of September? Yeah, so we had a fantastic Veterans Day assembly. We had the breakfast, which was very successful. We had over 100 people. Yeah. Then we had our assembly instead of parade, and, that was great too. The veterans, the VFW group, veterans groups are, talking about fundraising for a brick walkway, leading up to the War Memorial on South Main Street. So there'll be a fundraising, they're gonna, I think there's a fee per brick, and you can have it engraved with
Right.
your service person's, information.
We're selling them out of the office with the been flying.
Yeah, so, that's
That's a
exciting.
great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we had our town meeting October 22nd, and we very enthusiastically endorsed and adopted rather the Hero Act. So for the double the tax exemption, the real estate tax exemption, and adding the COLA each year after that.
Now, that's gonna take a town vote, correct?
We had it.
Oh, you had it?
And on the 22nd,
We are the first
Bravo.
town to
Yeah.
adopt it. So,
And, I asked our assessor about I'm sorry to interrupt, but I asked my assessor about the COLA portion of the Hero Act, and he told me that they, even though we've already doubled the exemption, the COLA portion of it is not automatic.
no, it's not. You have to adopt.
you have to know.
We gotta adopt it,
It's
so,
just, the Hero Act gave the towns and cities the option.
right,
And
so
then
I'm,
mandate.
I'm gonna push that we get the COLA portion of it put on.
Well, I sent out a letter to all the selects, all your select board, so.
Okay.
And Linda, was the vote, how was the vote? What was the feeling of the vote? Was in this financial time?
It
Was
was-
it strong?
It was.
Yeah,
very
or was it
strong.
wasn't
Yeah.
close?
No, it
That was
wasn't
great,
close at
yeah.
all. I had a few minutes to pull up the exact vote for you.
No, that's okay.
One did not abstain, that was an error.
We don't know why that is. There, but-
And I know sometimes that language, Linda, maybe, do we have access to the language on your warrant? I know some town managers would love to,
Yeah.
be in sync, how you put it with similar towns, and sometimes, the easier you can make some of these
Yeah.
issues,
I
When we
think
did it,
Yeah,
I sent out a warrant to Doug,
Yeah.
and, but our warrant was a couple of, at least a year ago, 2 years ago.
okay,
And so the whole Hero Act thing didn't even exist.
right.
So the COLA portion of it
Well,
was,
it would still be beneficial to adopt the other part, even though you already doubled it, it still would benefit the veteran
Right.
by adopting both clauses.
And I,
Even though you already doubled it, it would still benefit, I can send.
that's a good idea. Yeah,
So I would still adopt both
Marry them
clauses.
together
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
one article. Yeah, that's a good idea.
and I will tell you, just from our experience, there is, listen, the demographic, we have a lot of vets, a lot of seniors that are struggling with the the growth in certain pieces of the budget. This sounds like a small way to offset some of those growths and to acknowledge that, I see it in the veterans community, but also in our elderly community. Real estate prices in Essex have gone through the roof, and
Yeah.
hence the taxes and there's real folks struggling.
So right now, from anyone with a 10% to 90%, it's a $400 tax abatement. But with the Hero Act, it doubles, so now it's gonna be $800
Right.
with the double. So,
And it's dependent on your percentage of disability.
right, but if you're 100%, then it's 1,000, so that's gonna double to 2,000 now, with the doubles.
So I have those numbers that you were.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of, if you're missing a limb,
Oh,
or
yeah,
there's all kinds of,
Eligibility.
it's a big list.
Clause 22L.
So the yes votes were 572, the no votes were 12.
Well,
I was gonna say 12 too.
So
Yeah, 12 people.
But we
Yeah.
also,
Did people speak up against it, Linda, or no, it was just 12 people just didn't wanna. So,
and to your point about elderly in general, we also adopted a real estate tax deferral program where senior citizens can defer a portion or all of their real estate taxes until their property is sold. And when the property is sold, it comes back, the money comes back with interest, so it's.
Yeah.
But that's eligible, like, how is the eligibility criteria for that?
I think there's an income.
Well, yeah, because we had that.
We increased,
Yeah.
so we increased the income limit
Gotcha.
because it was so low that.
Yeah.
So people are struggling even at,
That's kind of chapter what chapter 115 is.
so in other words, it allows the town, it allows someone that's elderly to stay in their house, but sort of almost tap the home equity, and the town takes it off it.
when the property is sold,
Yeah.
right?
Right, there's a lien,
Yep.
there's a lien.
It has to
that's
be a lien.
It's kind of like a reverse mortgage.
Right.
The heirs won't like that. will they?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I just want to add, you mentioned, the elderly, and I went to, on Veterans Day, I went to, a luncheon that was up at Tuscan Village in Salem. And you might go, well, Dana, what the heck were you doing up there? It's like, I got an invite, and I'm like, I'd like to see this. And it was beautiful, it was huge. There were hundreds and hundreds of people there. It was going on all day long, and the thing that saddened me was you could tell the homeless veterans that were arriving for lunch.
Yeah,
And it was sad to see,
yeah.
I mean, they literally, everything they owned, they brought into the room. So there's more work to be done.
Sure. Is the owner of Tuscan Village a supporter of veterans causes, or how did you wind up at the Tuscan Village?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was a huge event. There was a lot of people there and, so it was nice, very nice.
Anything else from the local town flavor, people want to talk about? Next item is BSR report. Steve?
All right, I'm gonna tie this, I'm gonna tie this into the electronic initiative as well. If can we do
Beautiful.
that? Is that?
Yeah.
Because I want that's fun. Alright. So, we did approve for $500 advertising on Facebook last time. We've only used $120 of that right now because Facebook did think we were like a robot or fake, so they shut us down and prevented us from advertising.
But again, I'm not a Facebook guy. What happens with our money now? Are we popping up on other people?
Oh, yeah, we are, so yeah, but for a month and a half.
This summary page.
Yeah.
All right.
This is good to look at.
Yeah.
Let me look at the
They're
report.
actually getting data, which is.
So we got, our video got over 5,000 views, just with
Wow.
$120 spent.
Wow.
So yes, and total, it tells you who actually watched the whole video, which was 2,125, that's who watched the whole.
More
through.
than half.
Yeah, so we've done it, but we've only used $120 out of that $500 was because for a month and a half, Facebook blocked us from advertising. They thought we were a fake robot page. We couldn't talk to anybody for a while, and finally, after a month and a half, someone emailed us, and we finally got it squared away.
Why would they think you were a robot page? I'm just out of the modern
So-
lexicon. Yeah, what happened?
So I think what happened was they didn't watch our video, they put it through whatever system that they have. But due to the election cycle, I think they were extra critical and thought that we were political ads when we were not political.
Your algorithm, the algorithm was more strict.
Right,
Exactly,
Right.
so I think that
Artificial
they,
intelligence.
but they stopped charging us, which was good, so we
Yeah.
didn't use any, we've only used $120 out of the 500 you guys have already.
So they said that you weren't popping up.
Right, they
So if I
blocked
look at
us.
Eastern Essex veterans issues, we wouldn't pop up because they blocked us,
Right.
because they felt we were political or
Right,
what.
right, they blocked, so they stopped charging us, which was good, so we weren't getting charged during that time.
Okay,
But finally, we got it up and running after a month and a half, squared away, we have a direct link, so if it ever happens again, we have someone we can directly talk to, they can unlock it, so.
Okay.
So we're good to, this just happened 2 weeks ago, we finally started running again, so,
Well,
but these are the
there is a
numbers.
learning curve here, guys.
Yeah, well, that was out of our control, obviously, but that's squared away, so we've only used $120, we're continuing it right now. But we are able to target the areas, so we're not sending, like, people aren't in Boston aren't seeing our videos, we're targeting just our towns that we have, which is amazing, I mean. So it's compiling data, which we'll get more of as, like I said, because we got stopped during the middle, so we don't have all the data, but we will be able to bring up exactly, by areas. Who's targeting, but we are getting more calls of people, especially because of the HERO Act with the assessors. With the annuity, we're finding a lot of through the state, $2,500 annuity that veterans get if they're 100%. So a lot of people are, these informational videos are reaching people, that's my.
And it's targeted and localized.
In our areas only.
And at 2 cents a view,
It's,
and I think that's tremendous.
It's a buy.
I just want to point out the amount of women that are watching Steve versus men. Okay, so I guess we may want to get like a secretary sitting with you. So I'm sorry, I think that's an interesting.
Tremendous.
Well, it gives you so I mean, these are the demographics that it does give you, which is nice. But we can target specifically places. This is still early, we've only done $120 worth of the 500 already approved. So once we actually have all the data, I can't wait to share it with you all and be like, hey, this is a target. We can even track, people calling us like, hey, I saw your ad, my father, I think, is eligible, which, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So it's not just reaching the vet, it is reaching the families,
Right.
which is in turn getting the veteran in the door.
Sure. And 2 cents a view is about the metric where the cost we should anticipate.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's
2
showing,
cents.
yeah, exactly, it's showing like 5 cents for the through play, that's the one I'm really focusing
The
on.
ones that watch it
That are-
through, Tony?
Yes, so really what I'm paying attention to are the views and the reach. So it's not just that we're reaching individual accounts, but since there's double the number of views, that implies to me that people are rewatching it, so they absorb the information better. So that's what I like to see. That's what we want, is we want to get this information out there. We're not looking for I included that we got one link click and one post share. That's not what I'm worried about. That's good stuff too, but
Right.
the fact that we're reaching people and they are.
And I do love the feedback, because as your numbers fall off, maybe it's time for Steve and Tony to get something new out there,
Oh, well,
right?
that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
Get a fresh perspective that people might want.
Yeah. So I may have asked this when you were talking about doing this, about, can you send those videos to our local TV stations too, like ICANN, for example?
So we actually have reached out to, I think Natalie, she put them on Rowley's on their town page.
Okay.
So, Rowley has done that, they've put in, our videos onto their actual websites, the town
Yeah, well,
website.
that too, but I'm talking about like the local TV stations.
No, yeah, and that's something we can partner with, but I know when we were talking with ICANN,
So the plan for that is to just get all the videos made and then put them together
Yeah.
and have a whole 15-minute video that they can post once a month.
Yeah.
or-
Okay,
Yeah,
and they can put it in their rotation.
Yeah.
yeah.
with our number, flashes up, hey, this is Steve's email, boom,
And that's great, because, Bob Snow was the first one to say, we gotta get out on these, on these channels. And that's just another way to get out, on replay and get into people's homes.
Yeah.
Maybe just click.
So they'll eventually be packaged and sent to the TV stations.
And the best thing is, these are 3 minutes long each, like, these aren't boring, I have to sit here 10 minutes and watch this video, you're breaking down, you're trying to jam pack, a lot of information. But you want people to retain this information in that 3 minutes, you want them to be like, what? Like, oh, $2,500 annuity, like, that's huge, like, that number is gonna click in their head.
Right.
But believe me, I feel like in my caseload that it is already having a benefit.
How about a video on, getting in the VA and getting into the VA registry
Yeah, so
system.
that's,
I got a couple questions that I said, you gotta talk to my friends Steve and Tony, my knowledge ends here. How about something like that? I've got a couple of questions like
so
that.
we have a lot of videos, right? So to 1010 easy form, we're gonna actually explain the forms.
Yeah.
What they are, because 21 Ps 526 easy does
Right.
not sound,
Right,
but to me, that's, it's an application for comp and pen benefit.
sure,
So when you're hearing all these numbers, forms, and you don't know how to fill them out because some things don't apply to you, you don't have to fill out because it doesn't apply to you, people get confused by that, they still
Sure.
think they have to fill some out. So that's why, we're gonna flash it up on the screen, doing graphics like, hey, this is what you fill out if, you're the claimant. If you're the veteran, this is what you're from. So we're actually gonna break down and do graphs and visuals,
yeah.
so that people can follow.
For an old guy like myself, what's the, I asked my daughters, hey, I wanna send you an email, and they looked like I had three hands. What's the next, for the younger generation, is it the Snapchat, is it YouTube? What's after, Facebook,
So the easiest way to expand this would be YouTube, with so
The easiest way.
the easiest way to expand this would be to branch onto YouTube and Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram, so their parent Meta program, the advertising side of things allow a lot of Instagram compatibility. I
okay,
just don't see, so like the demographic chart right here is like, goes perfectly with the Facebook demographic chart, which is exactly who I wanted to target. If you shift this over left a little bit to the younger people, that's not necessarily Facebook's realm, it's Instagram and.
well, that's
TikTok and
where I'm
those
going, X and,
Well, who knows if TikTok's gonna even be around.
yeah.
But so moving into Instagram, I think this serves the most amount of people in the demographic that we are looking for.
Right.
And then we'll branch out to the secondary, tertiary demographics. But
Right.
yeah, that would be Instagram, YouTube. ICAM itself would be a good one. But yeah, the big plan is to get all the little ones done, put them together for a big one, and then start new videos that are moving in the same direction that worked well in the first videos.
Yeah.
And just expand.
I mean, there's just a lot, you can target spouses. Because there's applications just for spouses, so DIC, survivor's pension. So there's a whole wide variety. It's not just designated to the veteran specifically.
Sure.
There's dependent forms. So a lot of people, like, if you're 30% rating or higher, you now can get extra money a month for having a dependent, whether you're married or have a child.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But it's only if you have a 30% rating or higher.
Sure.
So if you have a 10% rating, you're not getting dependent. So there's just a lot of things people don't know.
And let me give you a personal one, Steve. Steve was very kind to help me with my dad's, plaque and some of his burial. And I, again, having been in charge of a lot of government bureaucracy, it was still Greek to me. So
Yeah.
maybe something on that,
Yeah.
post-death benefits and filing.
Yeah.
Because I know, what was the one that was 2 years, Steve?
So that's the benefit, the burial benefit.
Burial benefit,
Yeah,
right?
so you only have 2 years from the benefit, from the death of the veteran, to actually file for the benefit, or
Right.
if they, over the 2 years, I've had to tell people, sorry, I think it was 2 weeks past, and I had to be the bearer of bad news. But yeah, so I
But for
mean.
even the plaques, even the plaques and there's a great, it was very confusing. You can get a medallion onto the stone, or you can get the
Yeah.
plaque,
The cemeteries have to fill out their certain
Right.
form, like they have to, the cemetery that the person, they have to assign.
Right,
There's actually has to be a representative from the cemetery to sign the VA form.
right.
So yeah, there's just a
So
lot of.
There's a ton of content, there's
Not a
ton,
lot of evidence you need, a voided check, DD 214, marriage certificate, death certificate, so there's, we can explain what to bring to this appointment and what you're gonna need to, along with the application.
Right.
So,
and I've even had folks that say, they've gotten the name of the form, from Steve. And they've had, that step is crucial, because then they work with our local librarian to get them printed out, the hard copy. So sometimes even just finding the name of the form is a big part of the battle.
And the VA is constantly updating their VA forms, so
Right.
you always have to check the VA website directly to see if there's a new updated version, because if you fill out an outdated version, they're gonna kick it back.
Right,
So
right,
you always have to be on top of that. Is this the updated, form for this? So there's a lot, but everything is going great. Yeah, Tony's rocking it as always, obviously.
Right. So the electronic initiative is we're really into it, we're learning. And then, Steve, the other initiative is you're trying to hunt around with what's the potential for some transportation, some
Yeah.
auxiliary transportation.
Yep, whether, like I said, whether it's, fundraising, we're still in the early stages of what we can physically, or what we can allowed to do. I still don't know all the bylaws of fundraising. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a very important step in, helping our veterans in our communities, getting to their appointments, especially the elderly.
Sure.
And like I said, I don't feel like I'm doing my job if I'm filing a claim with someone and then they can't even make their competent claim to, and I just wasted my time. So, I mean, yeah. That's where I stand on that. But I just ended up actually sending out all of the annual town reports to all of your town administrators as well. So all of our numbers, I don't know if you guys noticed all your town reports, it has the tally of how many VA comp and pen are in your towns. It tells you how many chapter 115 benefits your town has paid out and what you were reimbursed. So because you get reimbursed 75% of whatever you pay out. Ipswich, I believe it was actually, I remember, it was $119,000 paid out and you were reimbursed $84,000.
That's tremendous,
So,
yeah.
But obviously, West Newbury actually was the lowest. You had, yeah, because I remember this. So you got reimbursed $2,000 after you paid out, I think, like $4,000. Yeah. So,
Yeah, but they just raised our taxes again based on sale value of your house.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we're all going through. it.
yeah, sound too.
And Steve, 115, I get asked this question. It is a state law. There's no town, the town can't say,
Nope.
no, it is a tax on the town. Taxes are wrong word. It is an expense of the town that by state law, the town is required to support them. And because we have such an active and well-staffed team, we are now at a 75% reimbursement, not at a 50% reimbursement. But there's no choice in this, right?
Nope.
I got a very strong-willed question saying, well, why are we doing this? I don't believe in war. I don't believe in these things. I said, well, this is a state law.
This has been around
that
since
we are following.
1700.
Right.
I mean, this has been since the Revolutionary War.
Tell me a little
So that's how I answered the question,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make sure I'm answering it
Oh,
correctly.
yeah, no, this has been around since the Revolutionary War. A lot of people, it was helped to supplement, veterans and their spouses. It's a needs-based program. It's not supposed to be a forever thing. Especially with the younger veterans. The younger veterans are actually, they have to do job training. They have to actively be looking for jobs. They have to prove to us that they're actively looking for jobs. We help them coordinate with our mass hire counterparts.
Okay.
So they have veterans representatives who help with resume building, job training. We refer them to them to help start with all of that. But we have to make sure that they are actively looking for a work, especially if they're able to. But if they're a disabled vet, a widow, elderly widow, they don't have to apply. Obviously, they don't have to be actively looking for a job because of their disabilities.
Right.
So there's certain criteria on who has to be actively looking for a job. But like I said, it's not supposed to be a forever thing. It's supposed to be, let's get you on your feet. Let's, help you get some training and something sustainable for your life.
Sure.
So, and it's also coaching, mentorship.
Sure.
So it's not just monetary.
Sure. And I'll just throw one other thing while we're talking about the outreach. I've gotten a couple of questions from veterans from different areas about, well, I've never joined the VA, but I've heard my friend get some help with his prescriptions. And the way prescription costs are going in Part D and some of these, that might also be a helpful topic to get out there.
So with chapter 115, we do any out-of-pocket expenses we do reimburse, but you have to fall under a certain element, like financial,
Right.
that's out of our,
Yeah.
out of our hands, but it's 200% of the poverty, federal poverty level.
Right.
It does change every year, every June, and June 30th, it changes every year, it goes up. So right now, for a single veteran or a spouse, it's $2,510 a month. That's the max you can make a month to be eligible for chapter 15.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like
Assets.
$28,000 a year or something.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous,
Assets,
it's ridiculously
8,400.
stupid.
Yeah, so.
So there's an income test and an asset test.
Yeah. And that, but obviously it goes up if you're, a spouse, so that level gets raised, your asset level gets raised. So it's confusing.
Interesting stuff, but
Yeah,
again, great stuff for topics.
I want to add that I talked about this at our last select board meeting, and the points that I brought up was what you're doing, how to find it, and I also recommended to our entire town, whoever watches our meetings, that if you're a veteran in Newbury and there's something that you don't know about, and reach out to you guys to maybe add it as a future topic.
And that's what we always do.
For a video, because I says, if you have a question about something yourself, you can be assured that there's 100 others like you
Oh,
that have the same question. And I'm sure you guys would love to hear, of people that want to know about,
Yeah.
like things like the death benefit. or
We encourage everyone.
All kinds of stuff.
We encourage it. If you have any questions, please, let us know. We'll make a video about it and we'll get the information. No, there's no stupid question. I tell people that every day they walk in my office, they're like, oh, it's gonna sound stupid. And I tell them, stop right there. I was like, there's no stupid questions when it comes to VA benefits or, chapter 115.
Well, and I also find it exciting that, as this gets more fleshed out, you can start cross-referencing your links. Well, here's a great guy from Virginia who'll tell you how, how to file this form, or here's some, interesting links that you can tie together. It doesn't have to be all your content, but once you're getting into the library, it's a great resource.
We had Seth's Moulton's Facebook page shared we had them share our Facebook page as well, so we got a couple more, got some links, from that share, which was nice. But yeah, it's all.
Listen, on a personal note, we had a big bugaboo with our getting the word out there and funding sort of some of our local tourism, but this report alone would have answered 90% of the questions. And this is so helpful for me. But maybe the answer is you start with Facebook and work out from there.
Yeah.
I'm saying to this other group that, wanted some money and, they couldn't produce the metrics, but this tells it right here.
Yeah.
2 cents of you is
Good.
It's a good investment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I just had another question. When you said that Seth's office shared your Facebook post,
Yeah.
right? That goes outside of the district, right? So how does that?
So all of our towns is his district. So he's sharing to his constituents who are in our.
Kristen Casler does that also.
Yeah, we actually-
Shout out to her.
We had her as well.
She has been sharing your posts.
Yeah.
And I follow her, so it's really interesting that I see that she's sharing your post because I'm following both of you.
Yeah.
So.
Right, but it also goes to cities and towns that aren't in this 6-town
Right.
district, right? So that's what I'm wondering, like, would any of these metrics be attributable to that?
Oh, no, this is just for the advertising that we're specifically targeting. So when we're specifically only targeting.
So the URL has to be within our footprint
Right.
for it to pop up and spend the 2 cents. It's that target.
That's who we're targeting, yeah. So we're
Wow.
paying for the people that we're targeting in our town only.
So
Yeah,
if
it's
somebody
not going,
shares
we're not, yeah,
into a different region, right?
that's out of our control.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea is that it's, the information is valuable for anybody in Massachusetts, but we're only paying
To
to get
target
people
our
in our area.
So if they share it, I mean, yeah, that's awesome, but we're not paying
You're
for
not
them.
gonna- you're not charged,
Right.
legislators.
Yeah, no.
Somebody else. does
No,
not.
only our 6 towns, specifically. But, yeah.
And
That's a good question.
It's funny though, because I'll be scrolling in the office and all of a sudden sponsored, our ad will pop up. But when I'm at home scrolling, it doesn't pop up. So I know for a fact it is only sponsored, like designated.
And because they know where the URLs are, that's how they can.
And if you search, if you're searching veteran posts on your Facebook, you're gonna be targeted for that. The
Right.
algorithm's gonna recognize that, so if you like any veteran related. If you like the Bedford VA's Facebook page,
Yeah,
our video is now gonna be advertised in your feed, even though, because of you just liking veteran related
Fascinating.
stuff.
yeah.
It is, it's fast.
Well, listen, this outreach, as we talked about, in my heart, this outreach is so important because our demographic that likes the mail, maybe looks at a website, that's over here. But this is something we struggle with for the last 5 years. This piece of the demographic in back has been, yeah, they'll look at a newsletter, but this is the coming wave of who's gonna be here.
No VSO is doing this. Out of the 350 something VSOs in the state,
Huh,
no one is creating informational videos like this. They're hosting podcasts, they're doing, having that, but it's not designed specifically to,
Yeah, for
federal and state side, really.
sure.
Not just specifically VA, but it's also the state benefits in the federal side.
And we have a lot of stuff to update too, like the most recent chapter 115 explanation video is from 12 years ago. There's a lot of stuff that's just outdated that we can go back and update that information so where it's actually relevant to the candidates.
Because with the HERO Act just passed, they extended the definition of a veteran. So the federal definition of a veteran is not the same as what Massachusetts considers. So now National Guard reservists are now considered veterans in Massachusetts. VA side, still not a veteran. You have to have 24 active duty, 24 months active duty to be considered a veteran in the VA. So it's
Huh.
weird,
Yeah.
very weird. That's neither here.
And just,
Wow, is that true?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You need 2 years of active duty service to be considered a veteran by the federal government? I did not know that.
that's crazy. Yeah. And this was $120. We got this traction, $120, and that was for, I think we said this at the last meeting, so this was for about a month, 6 weeks
Yeah.
of cost, is that right?
So really, if you break it down, since we had that month and a half blackout from Facebook, this is really only like 2 weeks of data actually, maybe
Only
even a
2
little
weeks,
less.
okay,
Because the $22 was spent over 4 days, and then the $100 was spent over a week. So
We got cut off after $22.
so
Yeah.
this is 2 weeks worth, Tony, am I hearing that?
pretty
right?
much, this is about 2 weeks, so it's really,
Early,
there's a
like I
lot
said.
more potential for this.
But if that rate is true, our spend rate is true, and we just stuck to Facebook, that's about a $3,200 budget item. If we kept at this rate and this pace for the year, I'm doing your 120 times 26. Is that just, the magnitude of the, where we're starting with this budget? If this initiative is catching, is that about
If
right,
we-
or?
If we wanted to keep, well, there's.
Because right now we get to choose how much we want. We set the 500 budget, you guys approved us, so we can actually set Facebook, hey, we only want to spend 500 right now.
Yeah, right.
And then they'll shut it off. Obviously, if we think it's valuable after the 500, and we can speak on that more at our next meeting, when we do the line item budgets. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Again,
continue it for the year, 30, yeah.
I'm not criticizing, I
No, no,
think it's
I-
terrific.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea of what the run
Right.
rate implies
Right.
for a budget item as you think about it for next year. But again, it sounds like, in my opinion, I'd be interested in what the rest of the board thinks. We are getting at that demographic that we've tried to,
Mhm.
the younger demographic that we have been struggling with. How do we reach out?
Yeah.
How do we get in contact? How do we touch them? And Facebook and other electronica portals seems like the one.
And, the female veteran aspect, because the female veteran, demographics is very low. So trying to target, the female demographic as well. Because there's just a lot out there for, the Massachusetts, there's an organization dedicated just to the Massachusetts women veterans that guarantee a lot of women veterans in Massachusetts don't know about. So there's a lot of resources out there that, you can target specifically for specific groups.
Right. You're saying you could further target this, say
Yeah.
you weren't reaching female veterans, you could further target it
Right.
with Facebook to say female pop up only for female veterans?
Well,
or-
we, sorry, if we can team up with the Massachusetts Women Veterans, because they're still fairly new with the Executive Office of Veteran Services, so their program right now is still fairly new and starting there, so, yeah, there's always room, I'm saying, for teaming up with every, aspect of within the Executive Office of Veteran Services, because there is a lot of branches. There's the SAVE team, which is mainly focuses on military suicides in Massachusetts.
Sure.
Then you got the Massachusetts Women Veterans, you got disabled Americans, so there's a whole lot of, people you can team up and.
Well, again, I'm very impressed and I love metrics, so
Me too.
this is great stuff. Anything else on this you guys want to talk about? Anything else the board wants to talk about? So the plan is to continue to drive forward, spend our $500, which it
Yeah.
sounds like we have 380 left. And that'll take us into our next meeting in February. And we'll talk about what the game plan is, the budget is,
Yeah.
in that area. But again,
And I'll have it presented in, what we think the numbers will be, and then I'll present it into the next, budget.
right. But the reason I asked that about that $3,200 number is we're not talking about $100,000 initiative. We're talking more, on the other side of that scale.
Yeah.
Does that feel right based on where we are? Or?
I think the return on investment for this is just so much better than any sort of physical presence that not necessarily. I think that it's an extremely cost-effective way to reach people.
Well, you figure all like Topsfield Fair, you have to pay to get a booth there. right?
Yeah.
So there's so many,
That's what I was just.
so you're saving $500 right there. I mean, it's just. that's great.
I think that it would be something for the next meeting, like cost comparisons versus
Yeah.
who you're reaching.
Right.
If you wanna start talking about postage, stamps, and on envelopes.
Mailing.
Yeah.
For practices, right?
Right now, it's like 60 cents an envelope or something, and this is.
You reach 30.
This is.
Right.
Yeah.
Again,
So, I mean,
this was my question for Steve this was my hiring process question. How do you target the older demographic? How do you keep that plate spinning? But how do you get in touch with the younger folks? And again, since you are new doing this, there's not 27 DSOs doing this. We're entering new waters here.
Oh, we're
I
doing
commend
both.
you. It's
Yeah,
great.
we're doing council on aging office hours, targeting, that elderly, but we're also doing the electronic initiative, so you're getting both.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, number 7.
Yeah, there is a Bruins game. All right.
That too.
This number 7 is items that could not reasonably be anticipated.
And
I know there were some topics. Dana, you want to talk about your letter?
Andrew's letter, I got it.
it's a lot of, and we
This is
talked
the gentleman who got appointed to 2 service academies.
Naval,
three.
well, yeah, but he's in, yeah.
He went to the Navy,
Yeah.
the Naval Academy. Yeah, and I know you've completed it.
Yeah.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach out to his mom, in Newbury, and I'm gonna say, listen, I can either, I'd like us all to sign it. I don't know if we can do that at a later date, but I wanna find out whether she would like, me to present it to her in her home or, with her son, or whether they would like to come in and we do a small ceremony and present it to him, upstairs, so I haven't gone to talk to her yet, but that's what I'm gonna
But
do.
Dana, I'll tell you this, Bob Snow used to occasionally every second quarter have a guest speaker for 10 minutes.
Right, I remember.
It'd be terrific
We did that.
if he came in, and I personally love to hear about how his first quarter was at the academy. I'd love to hear.
Right, and I don't know what the academy schedule is, I don't know when he's gonna be home again, but I can reach out to his mom and I can get all those answers.
Well, we got the letter ready to be signed, so.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Oh, no.
Okay, Dana, anything else? Ron, anything? you
No,
wanna
no,
touch on?
good, thank you.
Linda? I would like to say on a personal note, I wish everyone here a very safe and happy holiday season. I wish that the joy of the season is with you and the rest of your family. That's a personal note.
Thank you, same to you.
Next date?
Yeah, let's set the next date.
February.
And Linda, you mentioned that 6:30 works better for the traffic.
This is tough for me to
Okay.
come
Okay.
from Arlington, but whatever works best for the group, obviously, is
February 12th or 19th? February 19th is 2 days after President's Day.
February 19th seems like
Um,
a pretty good ski day for me.
And it's also, you also have to be careful with February vacation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that is that week, so.
February 12th?
Oh, then
Okay,
I'll be here, cause I won't be skiing during.
February
vacation.
12th, right?
that works for me. 6:30.
February 12th at 6:30 to say it out loud for the next meeting. I'm on the wrong year.
And Dana, not, so now send it to your iCloud and not your town?
Yeah, I'll, yes, please.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so our next meeting, by consensus, February 12th, at 6:30, 2025. I'm gonna get used to saying that.
All right.
With that, could I look for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
I.
Aye.
Thank you all.